Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Idam Bhagavatam Nama Purana Brahma Samitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Danyam Swastaya Namahat. Okay, do we know the verse? It's not up here yet. Yeah, I don't either.
Verse 21.
And chapter 5?
Chapter 7.
7, oh really? That's what I thought first. We're doing the same canto in another class, and so I get mixed up. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravane Pracharane Nirvisesha Sanivadi Paschatari Sata. Okay, third canto, chapter 7, text number 21. Correct, Professor? Shistvagre Mahad Adini Savikarani Anukramat Tebyo Virajam Udritya Tam Anu Pravishad Vibhu Shistvagre Mahadadini Savikaran Nanukramat Tebyo Virajam Udritya Tamanu Pravishad Vibhu Shistvagre Mahadadini Savikaran Yanukramat Tebyo Virajam Udritya Tamanu Pravishad Vibhu. Yasvastagre Charam Vinukramat Tebyo Virajam Udritya Tamanu Pravishad Vibhu Shistvagre Mahad Adini Savikaran Yanukramat Tebyo Virajam Udritya Tamanu Pravishad Vibhu. Very good. Sanskrit. It's not on the. Who is it? You don't know how to put it up. Shistagre Mahadadini Savikaranyanu Tejo Virajam Udricha Samanu Pravishad Vibhu. Anyone else? Okay, lady? Okay, all right. So, we hear that the previous ages, brahmachari could hear from the guru all day and 20 years later repeat it verbatim. And now we chant a sloka 10 times and we still have to read it. Prabhupada said we should memorize the sloka every day. And I'd be all day just trying to memorize this sloka. Fortunately, we have books. Previous to Kali Yuga, they didn't need books. People could remember everything. Unfortunately, we have a printing press and all these things so that everybody can have a book, and we have all this, so you can always access. And we should give thanks to Krishna. Shishtva, after creating. Agre, in the beginning. Mahad Adini, the total material energy. Savikarani, along with the sense organs. Anukramat, by a gradual process of differentiation. Tevya, out of that. Virajam, the gigantic universal form. Udritya, manifesting. Tam, unto that. Anu, later. Pravishat, entered. Vibhu, the supreme. After creating the total material energy, the Mahatattva, and thereby manifesting that gigantic universal form with senses and sense organs, the Supreme Lord entered within it. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Fully satisfied by the answers of the sage Maitreya, Vidura wanted to understand the remaining portions of the creative function of the Lord, and he took the clue from the previous topics. It's an interesting purport. It's only one sentence. So I think the next paragraph, next verse is almost the same. So we'll try. This Mahatattva is Omagana Timirandasya Ganangana Shivakaya Chaksun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rup Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Navasesha Sunyavadi Pasita. We have our previous acharyas back there, and I'm going to beg their mercy. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namani Madhu Jojala Premaja Shri Rupa Nuga Bhakti Da Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Varshavanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha. Namaste Gauravani Shimurtaye Dinatarane Rupanuga Viruda Apasadanta Dvanta Harane. Namo Gaurakishoraya Sachit Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Padambujaya Te Namaha. Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namane Gaura Karuna Shakti Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Bhave Bhume Stvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Jagannataya Te Namaha. Namo Mahavadhanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaura Tushe Namaha. Panchatatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shakti Kam. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandhu Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate. Is the floor shaking? This table is shaking. Must be the train. Yeah. It's like an earthquake. Huh? Can't hear it. I usually hear it. Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavani Shri Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Garim Tat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dina Tarane. Krishna Panjaranta Satu Saraja Hansan Prana Pranama Samaye Kapavata Pittai Kantavaro Dhanasmarnam Kutaste. So that, I was reading about it yesterday and I can't remember the details. It's a total material energy. It's some kind of, but it has, Krishna has not entered into it. So it's like unmanifested. There's a pradhana and mahatattva. And so when it starts, it's something, the Big Bang, but the Big Bang sounds like it was a big explosion. It's not like that. Krishna enters into it and then all this total energy starts to act in the way it's supposed to act in a very organized way, Explosions are usually not very organized, remnants of an explosion, right? But because they can't understand and they have no idea, so they just make up stuff like that. And many scientists, many people know better, The Big Bang, when I was in school, it was called the Big Bang Theory. But now it's just, they don't say theory, do they? But Sadaputa Prabhu said it's not, mathematically, it doesn't even qualify as a theory. There's not enough verifiable evidence to call it a theory even. But now it's a fact. Evolution is a fact. Same thing. And this is the Kali Yuga, so that's why Prabhupada is so, One devotee was getting initiated near LA and his name was Asura Kula Nashana, from the song, The Destroyer of the Demons. So Prabhupada looked at him and he said, do you know who are the demons? And he went, the Mayavadis? No, the scientists, like that. Of course, there are many pious scientists, but they're not able to speak out very much, or they'll lose their, position. Nobody will publish their books, and they get fired from the university. But it's changing due to Prabhupada's efforts in the Bhaktivedanta Institute. Many people are speaking out. Science and religion are not totally separate things, And it was traditionally science and religion was religious, and somewhere along the line, not too long ago. So manifested a universal form with senses and sense organs. So there's a whole description in several places in the Bhagavatam how that comes about. You know, first there's I don't remember, the water, and the water has what sound, and then another one comes and it has two, so the sense perception and it all comes about like that. And it's very specific under Krishna's control, but it's indirect control. It's not like Krishna is sitting in the control room and pushing buttons and stuff, but it's just there, you know. And it happens over and over again. The universal form gets described many times in the Bhagavatam, and then there's a whole chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. They're all a little bit different, but it's imaginary. Right? A few weeks ago, that was in somewhere. So, like, Yasoda saw some sort of universal form in Krishna's mouth, freaked out. She thought it, and she told her husband, Nandamara, and she, must be some, you know, I'm hallucinating, I'm dreaming, you know, I'm thinking I'm very great or something. This can't possibly be that everything's in a baby's mouth, you know, including herself holding Krishna. All the planets, all the demigods, and Duryodhana and company, they saw some sort of a universal form when Krishna went to negotiate. Krishna wasn't really negotiating to try to stop the war. He wanted the war, but because Yudhishthira asked him, he went. And they got this crazy idea to arrest Krishna, put him in the prison, and then then Yudhishthira would lose his confidence without Krishna. So they tried to grab Krishna, and he showed some sort of, you know, small version of the universal form. And suddenly Krishna was everywhere, and then he was here and there, and he just walked out. First, there were many Krishnas everywhere. Everywhere Duryodhana looked, there was Krishna, and then he tried to grab him, and he wouldn't be there. He looked somewhere else. And then he just walked out the door and said, "You thought I was alone." Krishna's never alone. Then there's the whole thing, you know, in second canto, how the hairs on the head are the clouds, and it's hard to remember the bones or the mountains or the bones, and the rivers are the veins, and on like that. And the idea is to give neophyte people some way to think of God as a person. It's very hard for people to do that, especially now with all the atheistic propaganda going on. Godless atheistic propaganda. In so many ways, either, you know, like Mayavadi, God is some inconceivable. It's changing a bit, but some of the mainstream Protestant churches some years ago, their definition of God was right out of Shankaracharya. You know, you see them? But they're changing a bit, but the Bible, God is a person. You know, there's so many descriptions of his being a person and sitting somewhere and having feet and speaking and doing things. And then Jesus went and sat at the right hand of God the Father. My Father sent me, you know. Like if I come and say, well, my father, who's your father? Well, nobody knows. Nobody's ever heard of him or seen him. Maybe, you know, nobody knows. Some people really don't know specifically who they're, I mean, more and more these days, they don't know who their father is. But generally they know. And you know he was some kind of a person because you're a person, right? So your father must have been a person also, and his father, and his father. And I remember a devotee met some scientist once, and he had been in Borneo or something. he was saying we're studying the monkeys or whatever. I think it's orangutans that the men came from, evolution. And the devotee asked him, "You've seen any men being born to the monkeys?" No, they don't do that anymore. They just had one man and one woman, human, and then they carried on, and the monkeys stuck to being monkeys after that. Like the Hanuman and them, they were called Vanara, forest men. And the orangutan, which is the closest to human, that's what that means actually in that language. It's a forest man. But they don't change. They don't give birth to gorillas either. They don't give birth to chimpanzees, only orangutan. What to speak of humans? Prabhupada said, well, your ancestors might have come from monkeys, but not mine. It's coming from Krishna. Because the people are like monkeys. Anyway, so I remember myself, the first pictures I ever saw of Krishna was really those Brijbasi prints. There's a few of those pictures around. So one was Krishna with a calf, him sitting on the stone. The devotees copied that one. And then there was that one universal form and posters in the hippie shops. And that's the one that got on the cover of Jimi Hendrix's album. And everybody's seen that? Are you too young? They released it a little while back. Huh?
People are slowly forgetting about Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles.
Okay.
It's still pretty good.
Well, still, whenever a record company is going down, they re-release Beatles songs. And then it becomes the bestseller for a while. Anyway, and when I saw that, I didn't know anything, but by that time I knew this was supposed to be God, and I thought this is not good, because they put his face on Vishnu. But it was popular, and I was very attracted to that picture. With all these arms and weapons and demigods, and crazy picture, very beautiful, with Arjuna down like, about this big. And then when I read the Bhagavatam, it said that's for neophytes, to attract them. But they have the basic idea, like in Buddhism, they have the 1,000-armed Buddha, and it looks the same from a distance. So, but we are interested in the personality of Godhead, and that's what Prabhupada made such a huge effort to give us. Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, he really stressed. I read it, and I'd never heard that before, but there were some Christians using that terminology in the 30s or something. But it didn't carry through because people started thinking God's not a person. Because how can a person be the supreme controller and the supreme creator of everything? It must be something great. If God is so great, it can't be a person. No person can be there. I couldn't do that. Like my father, he was atheist, but somehow he looked at the Krishna book. I don't think he ever read it, but he must have seen a picture that Krishna had 16,000 wives. You're crazy. What kind of brainwash? How can you believe that? This isn't nobody. I can't. He can. Everybody's actually an university class, and I can't imagine why I would say that, but I said Krishna had 16,000 wives, and they're mostly Christian. So one guy was protesting, God can't get married. I said, why not? You're married. You can get married. We think you're better than God. And he couldn't answer, of course. But if you can get married and you can, some of the father had days, I don't think like that so much because they can't maintain, but and some of these still now Arab kings, they have hundreds of wives, but they can't live with all of them at the same time like Krishna. And all the wives were thinking, they weren't thinking that Krishna was manifesting 16,000 forms. They were thinking, I'm so fortunate he's with me. But he was actually with all of them. That even Narada Muni got bewildered when he saw that. So, it's inconceivable. We have to accept this achintya shakti, achintya beta beta tattva. That's the answer to all the questions. Scientists will say, well, you only say it's inconceivable because you can't understand it. But actually, if you understand Krishna, it's inconceivable. That's all you can understand. And then that means we have some idea, about Krishna. He's personal, he's impersonal, he's all these things at the same time. But Krishna is too Bhagavan Swayam. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. I am the basis of this Brahman, this effulgence that many people think is supreme. The Brahman effulgence. But that's like saying that this light that's over here is the light bulb. It doesn't make sense, right? The light is emanating from the light bulb. And if it's a really bright light, you can't see the bulb. You only see the light, you'll be blinded, right? So that's the nature of the Brahma Jyoti. It's so bright, you can't imagine that there's anything else more amazing than that. But then in all scriptures, God talks to different people. Allah talked to Muhammad, God talked to Moses, and many people still say God talks to them. God talked to Krishna, to Prabhupada. I've heard a few times, but I just heard it the other days. Prabhupada said, my guru, he gave me the mission to preach in the English-speaking people, outside of India. Of course, in India, many people speak English nowadays. So Prabhupada said, I went to America and I was doing all right. And he had the temple started in LA and it was quite good. A few deities were installed. Radha Govinda was the first big ones. And then LA, I think, was next. And then many came bam, 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 And then there was Prabhupada apparently was all disturbed. There was some kind of revolution and a few things were happening. They didn't put His Divine Grace, Founder Acharya on the books and a few things. And Prabhupada started thinking they're minimizing me because some devotees had been hearing from Prabhupada's godbrothers who were envious. And then he told Brahmananda, he said, he was talking to Rukmini and Dwarkadish, and they were telling him, Dwarkadish, Krishna, the deity in LA, told him, now you go to India and preach there. And Prabhupada said, no, I'm just here and I'm just getting started and everything's going good. And I built this temple and everything. And he said, no, you go to India and I'll get you even a better temple. So he went. And then Prabhupada explained that going to India, that wasn't his specific assignment. That was his own spontaneous extra work because he couldn't tolerate to see the Indian people getting so degraded. So after that time, and the rest of the world was getting going, and so many devotees were coming, and they were doing a lot. Prabhupada spent much more time in India than he did in other countries altogether, especially Bombay, because that one was such a struggle to establish from the very beginning. Seemed okay in the very beginning, that land, and you got a really good deal on the land. That Prabhupada said first, he was thinking, oh, I'm getting a really good deal, cheap. And the seller was thinking, this sadhu will be easy to cheat. So offer them his cheap price, get his down payment, and then drive him out, But he didn't know what he was dealing with, or Nrsimha did. And Prabhupada stood his ground, and so much trouble he had. It's an amazing book to read, and how he just dealt with so many detailed things about everything, and never forgot anything. And Shudi Kirti said when Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, because they were also trying to get that temple built, and he would hear about all the trouble in Bombay. And he said he would see Prabhupada chanting japa, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. We're just walking back and forth and just chanting really loud, because he had to just depend on Krishna. But he did depend on Krishna, and that's what we can do. I put up that talk by Ramaswara, Prabhupada was talking, and I don't know if anybody listened to it. It's on my Facebook, describing how Prabhupada said that Hare Krishna would become very, very prominent in the world. He predicted that many times. And he was asking him how. Would there be like so many devotees that have election and elect a president? Would it be a revolution? And he mentioned the Russian Revolution, where a small group had those things. It's just that book distribution, atmosphere, have such a desire for proper leadership, things will change. Of course, we're only 50 years into not even 50 years, even into the golden age of 10,000 years, so we can't expect instant results. Things are happening now. But you're all pioneers, and Krishna is still sending people. Same devotees can take birth again and again. When they had this deprogram here in New York, that was the main place. Couple devotees, but the brains come back and get a book and pick it. Like we see that. Mention names, but everywhere we see everything right away. Vaishesika Prabhu was telling about one boy he met. And this boy, his mother got in a book in this and never read it. And then when he said, why don't you read this book? I got this. And so he read it, and he just like instantly became a devotee, ISKCON, rah, 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 and everything. He was saying maybe he was the devotee who sold the mother the book, So you can't get away from Krishna no matter how hard you try. And one devotee, he was a book distributor, and there was a time when devotees would say, here, I'll sign the book for you. And they'd write their name in the book, and give it to him. And it's like, it's supposed to mean someone, I have to take it, So then this devotee left, and he was hitchhiking across America. And somebody picked him up, and the people that would pick up hippies, they were either kidnappers or they were nice, So they started talking about yoga and everything. And the guy said, well, I've got a book there in the glove box. So he took it out and it was a Bhagavad Gita as it is. He opened it up and there was his name in it, his signature. So he went back and continued distributing books many, many years. So we don't know what, it says a fool can't understand how the soul can change bodies, and go from one body to the next. But this is, sometimes devotees ask, well, how does the mind carry the soul to the next body? Well, it does it. We can't say mechanically how it does it. But because the subconscious mind, which is the super soul, knows all our desires and all our whatever, and he takes us to the next body. It's not our superficial external mind. Now the scientists are the subconscious mind, which is like a different entity. But they're not, it'll be a while before they realize it's the super soul and it's Krishna. But that he knows everything. So from me come remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge. You can remember Krishna, you can forget Krishna, or you can know about Krishna. All comes from him. If somehow we get that desire. So we want to induce, which is a very good word, induce people to get the desire somehow or other with cookies. Prabhupada said, if you want to make a friend, give him a cookie. So it started in LA, and that time there were many children. Most of the householders moved to LA. So I don't know who started it, but Prabhupada would give all the kids a cookie, and it took quite a while, and there's many stories about it. And then, the devotees would try to get one, but Prabhupada wasn't giving it to everybody. And then Prabhupada came one time and he was very ill. He was in bad health. And they told the girl who made the cookies, you don't have to make cookies today. And Prabhupada's too tired. Didn't even know if he'd come to class. But he came and then he finished. He said, where's the cookies? He loved giving those cookies to the kids. The kids all remember, getting those cookies. Some of them were, most of them were like not even kindergarten, Some were just babies and their mothers holding them and getting cookies. Many pictures. So they called them Prabhupada cookies. They had a lot of butter though. So they weren't vegan cookies. They were really juicy. But one time in New Vrindavan, Prabhupada came and there were a lot of devotees there. I came with my bus and a few other buses were there. In New Vrindavan, all the devotees from the East Coast would come in. So when Prabhupada finished class and there were no cookies, I don't know if he asked for them. I was sitting right next to him, but Radhanath Swami was Pujari and he came up with the plate right off the altar and handed it to Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada, he'd pick up a rascal and break off a little bit. He started giving it to everybody, everybody, there were no kids there. Everybody went wild, Prabhupada was breaking up all the little sweets and everything, handing them out. So he liked distributing. Chatuvidhashi Bhagavat Prasado Sadhana Triptem Hani Bhakta Sangam Kritvaiva Triptem Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Garoshi Sharanada Vindam. So the universal form back is not the real form of Krishna. Prabhupada made the Krishna book, special effort. So, and with all the pictures of Krishna at all different ages, so that everybody could be introduced to the personality of God. A great endeavor and, unbelievable work of literature. So it's good to distribute it. And people like it. You know, and when I got the Krishna book, I was hanging around the temple, and then I was doing carpenter work, so they had me build an altar. I didn't know what an altar was, so I did something. They didn't even tell me what it should be or anything. I just made like some steps. And I spent all the money I had on that. So the devotees came, oh, it's so beautiful. Oh, it's so nice. And the temple president, it's so small. And then sorry, you didn't tell me anything. Because the picture they had when I first went, they just got the house and they had a BTG box and a BTG open so you could see the back and front cover. And I'll call you back in 10 minutes. And that was they offered, they were fanning with a paper plate. I thought, these guys know God, no opulence, no fancy stuff. This is a real thing. It had one light bulb and it was a standing lamp with no shade, just a bulb. But they were so blissful, in the kirtan. And so then I asked him, I asked the temple president, could I have a Krishna book? I had the Isha Upanishad from the before, and the Krishna book was, I looked at it the first time I went and they were trying to give it to me. And I was looking, it was that one with Dwarkadish on the cover with so many jewels. And I was thinking that book, I thought it was like gold. It must be, there's no way I could afford that. And so I just said no. So then I got to know a little bit more. And then I said, do you think I could have a Krishna book? Who do you think you are? What are you asking for that? You rascal. I said, well, I'm sorry. Then he said, it's okay, you can have it. So I got back to where I was parked and I just read it. I started reading and I couldn't stop. I just kept reading and reading. Somebody had come to talk to me and I'd just say, listen to this, and I'd read out loud. It just completely blew my mind. And that happened to many, many devotees. Whatever book they got, and it's still happening. And it'll go on happening for thousands of years. So no book is insignificant. Somebody gets one book, they may become Mahotsaha. You never know. People come and go, they join the movement, they leave. They can't get away in this life or the next. We know many that went so far away, but towards the end of the life, they come back and they're just remembering Prabhupada and remembering everything and chanting all the time. So it's the eternal process. The personality of Godhead, your best friend. Satsuru Maharaj once told Prabhupada, well, we were taught to be afraid of God. But, oh, no, he's your friend. He said, you don't have to be afraid of him. But when they say God fearing, they kind of mean they don't want to do sinful activities because they know there'll be bad reaction. It's not like they're just always, but some people, they think like that when they hear them talk God fearing. They think God is just a punisher. He's just waiting for you to make a mistake so he can smash you down. But Krishna has nothing to do with that. Krishna is just dancing, playing his flute, and all this other stuff goes on by his agents. So Hare Krishna, the holy name is Krishna. If we can believe that fully, and we can, like Bhaktivinoda said, aparada gucci, shudaname ruchi. When the offenses are ceasing, then the taste for the name is increasing. All right, comments, reflections. He's fast. But he was almost, I didn't, may have been Thai.
Thank you so much for giving class, as always. one thing that popped into my mind, and I never really got a answer for, but you were talking about Krishna's 16,000 wives, but he never married Radharani. I was wondering if you could comment on that.
Yeah, that's a huge issue. Many books on that one. Because that's more exciting. That's the higher rasa, the parakiya rasa. But the gopis that didn't get to marry Krishna, they manifested in Dwarka and did marry Krishna in different forms. And in the Gopal Champu, did you read it yet? Krishna did go to Vrindavan and marry him.
Huh.
But that might have been another age or another millennium or something. But that's because they were very young when Krishna left Vrindavan. But no, because the basic idea is it's a more exciting kind of relationship. It's Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was thinking about this point of, niyamagraha and niyamagraha. Because niyamagraha and niyamagraha, whether following the rules and regulations, without understanding the meaning or not following them at all. You were just mentioning how, when you went to the temple for the first time, and they had the BTG and they were fanning with the paper.
I said, this is it. It's what I've been looking for. Because I knew I was looking for something. I had no idea what I was looking for. Something spiritual.
So I was just thinking, because sometimes on one hand we have devotees that are saying, oh, you have to put on the tilak at a 90-degree angle with the get the line straight, and
you have to use the right finger.
You can't use you can't use this finger. You can't use like this.
You use this finger.
You have to look you have to be looking north and whatever. Now, so what is the where do we draw the line to say, okay, now you're being too much, or or you shouldn't.
It's something different for everybody, but we can't change the prayojana, but we can change the abhidaya. I just heard it stated that way. I thought it was quite brilliant. How you attract people, how you present, the service and everything, that can be adjusted in so many ways. But they were just, they just got the house and they were just setting up. I guess I don't even remember what, we must have got more pictures, because I give it a three-step altar, so that I can do something, But like I read the book that the devotees in Germany, and they were trying to go to the temple, and they saw the card temple, and they went to the address, and it's like a bunch of warehouses or something, and finally they found way in the back some little room, that was the temple. And they just handed him a paper plate with cold potatoes, and she said, "This is the best food I ever ate in my life." And another Mataji, she's at GBC now. She had been to India and went all around and didn't find anything. Everybody's worshiping all the different gods and everything. And so she came back to Germany, and she was just doing yoga, and her mother thought, my daughter has gone completely nuts. And she went to the temple. I don't know if she could even get in the door because it's probably full, it's very small. So they asked, she was going to leave, and then she listened to the lecture and it just blew her mind. So when they asked for questions, she said, "What do I have to do to stay here?" And he said, no girls. She said, "Tough luck, I'm staying." So they let her stay, and next day, book distribution. Drop them off somewhere by yourself. And she said they gave her something for a sari. She thought maybe they used it to clean up or something. And many like that. Now it's a little more, but when people come, if you just have a beautiful deities and nothing else, then they're not gonna. You have to talk to them. They have to make friends. So that's the main thing we want to present. But we also want to present everything very nicely. Prabhupada gave us deities, but at one point he said, "I'm making all these projects so you have something to do, because you're not going to be able to sit down and chant all day." But so he just kept adding more and more projects and keep everybody engaged. But also, we need that. All the Goswamis, they were definitely, but they had deities. They worshiped deities. And then when I thought these guys really have it down, this is really spiritual, there's no opulence, nothing fancy, And then they wanted to fix up the place. I thought, oh, this is why they want to do that. They wanted to tear up the carpet. It was an old carpet, and not very nice. But when I grew up, we had really opulent carpet, and the carpet was really special, And they said, Prabhupada said the carpet is the embodiment of filth. And I couldn't understand, but I tore up the carpet. Then I understood. Underneath was hell, this unbelievable hell, dirt, because it falls through, And so they fixed it up to some extent, and a lot of people were coming. And they had really nice prasadam. The first feast I went to was like, I don't know how many things, but so many preparations. And I was macrobiotic, I hardly eating anything. And they kept saying, well, do you want more? I said, little, and they were so, and then, and I unbelievably ate everything. Then I thought, I didn't like vegetables my whole life, but especially cabbage. And they had this cabbage sabji fried in ghee and everything. I thought, well, if they can make cabbage taste good, they know God. Definitely. So Krishna has his different ways to capture different people. But ultimately, it's because you have friendly devotees. Somebody who can help you along. So, anyone else? Satisfied today, Bhakta Kyle? Calming down. Krishna is cruel. We'll think Krishna's hiding from me, but actually we're hiding from him. But he can become invisible. The Mayavadis, they take the Bhagavad Gita, but they leave Krishna out. They read the Bhagavad Gita, but they can't see Krishna. They can't see me, aham, my, me. They translate it in different ways. They interpret it in different ways. It's not a person, something else. And if we read it, and of course, God is a person. That's what, in My Sweet Lord, Prabhupada told George Harrison he wanted to come, he was asking him, you think I should just come and live in the ashram? Prabhupada said, no, you should continue with your songs. You come every day and I'll teach you to write separation from Krishna. So he came every day and for a week or something and spent time with Prabhupada. So I really want to see you. I really want to talk with you, right? And he wasn't like saying God as a person, it was so personal and separation, but it takes long, so it really affected so many devotees. That was the first time they heard Hare Krishna. And still, Even in Japan, some years ago, not too many years ago, one guy just came up, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare. I said, where'd you learn it? He said, from George Harrison. But now that people are kind of forgetting, if you show them George Harrison in the Krishna book, at the time, how much is it, but not anymore. Now it's got to be whatever, But like you see Gopal, he's so friendly with people, then they just take the book. And Bhakti Jimmy, people just, okay, So, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, and Mahaprasadam ki jai.
His Holiness Kavichandra Maharaj ki